Sham Sharadava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Santaradava Nalalidaloka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gurunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Praptasya Kalyana Gurunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhya Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu Gita Vaditra Madhya Romancha Kampasru Taranga Bhaja Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Diramarjanado Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Diramarjanado Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasadu Sattvanatruptam Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Sattvanatrupta Hari Bhakta Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shradikama Davayara Para Madhura Leela Gunarupanamna Shradikama Davayara Para Madhura Leela Pratikshanasa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Nikunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Vir Juktir Apekshaniya Jono Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Vir Juktir Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Sakshat Haridvena Shamasta Shashre Ruktas Tathava Vyataiva Sadhavi Sakshat Kintu Prabhaja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Priya Eva Tasya Vande Gurashi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Gayam Stuvam Tasya Yasa Trinsandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam. Charanara Vrindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Pachatarisha Tarine Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Pachatarisha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hariyaraye Namah Krishna, Jadavaye Namah. Jadavaye Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah. Hare Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghuna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghuna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Haribo. Jai Vishnu Paraparamsa Prabhajikacharya Suttar Shrishishimad. His Divine Grace, Abhocharamina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Iskon Pratishtha Viviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnav Siramani Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patiti Udhar ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhakti Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Sanguna Sat Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ji ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसारी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय. प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमन गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरिनाय अवतार की जय. गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय. जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय. बृहदांग ट्रांसलेटर बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय. श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरधाम की जय. तिलोच विशिष्ट राधा नील माधव की जय. श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्रधाम की जय. परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय. श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्मस्पद्र देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय. भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना करुण सिंह भगवान की जय. पतित पावन सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय. जगंगा माई जमुना माई की जय. तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्त देवी की जय. जय श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय. समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय. निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glory to Shri Guru Shri Gaurang.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Praladhalada daine. Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha. हिरण्यकाशिपूर्वक्षः शिलाटङ्कानखालाये हे शिलाटङ्कानखालाये इतो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह येतो येतो यामिततो नरसिंह येतो येतो यामिततो नरसिंह बहि नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नाकामद्भुतशृङ्गा ललिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवद्रीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
तव कर कमल बरे नाका अद्भुत श्रृंगा
ललिता हिरण्यकशिपु
तनुभृङ्गा
केशवद्रीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे
जय जगदीश हरे जगदीश
केशवद्रीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
जय केशवद्रीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश
हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव
जय निसिंहरे 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 जय निसिंहरे
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज शिव प्रहलाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय गुरुदेव
जय श्री भक्ति विनायक श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय।
Shri Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai. Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha.
Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Deya Vilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilasi
Radha Krishna Seva
Je tumhara sharana loy tara vancha purna hoy kripa kori koro thare Vrindavana bhasi
Kripa Kari Karatare Vrindavanavasi.
Mora abhilas Bilas kunje diyavas
Moraiya Vilas Kunje Diyava.
Nayane heri bosara Yugala ruparasi
Aminayane Vivosara Yogayaruparasi.
Eni vedhana dharo Sakiranu-gata khoro
Vedana Sakiyayano Atakaro
Seva adi kara diye koro nij dasi. Dina Krishna dasi khoi ye jana mora hoy. Shri Radha Govinda preme sada ina bhasi.
Radha Govinda preme sada navasi.
Shri Radha Govinda preme sada ina bhasi.
Shri Radha Govinda preme sada
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyari kani cha Tani tani pranasyanti Pradakshinam pare pare.
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyari
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyari kani cha Tani tani pranakshanti Pradakshinam pare pare.
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyari anisa.
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyari kani cha Tani tani pranakshanti Pradakshinam pare pare.
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyari anisa.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदा देवी
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi
निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल
Jai Gaura
हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय
Shri Vrindai Tulsi Vai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namah Vrindai Tulsi Vai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namah Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Ke Sava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namah Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of in love. My desire is that you also give me residence to grow in this love and harm. Thus within my vision of all behold here, Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a part of government and sanctified. Please give me the privilege of service and make me your own man servant. This very golden and lonely sacred Krishna praise. May I always sing in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Namo Mahavaranayi Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namini Guru Tvishe Namaha. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtan. Cleanses the heart of all the dust that we lay for years, and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan moment is the primary benediction for humanity of life. God is expressed the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh my Lord, the holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus we have hundreds, millions of names like Krishna evolving. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There's not even pardon Christ rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, to enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord on the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beauty,
nor do I want any number of followers. I only want causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj, Nanda, Krishna,
I am your
I'm your
eternal
eternal
servitor.
servitor. Yet somehow or other I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? Oh Govinda, feeling your separation and considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents to rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya. Saksastakam ki jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pracharani Nirvisesa Sanyamari Paskati Sutani.
There are 10 offenses about chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1.
To blaspheme the devotees, who dedicate their lives corrupting the holy names of the Lord.
2.
To consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu,
3.
to disobey the orders of the spiritual master,
4.
to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version,
5.
to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination,
6.
to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord,
7.
to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord,
8.
to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities of karma kanda,
9.
to instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name,
10.
to not have complete faith in chanting
holy names,
and
and
to
to maintain
maintain
material
attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be an attentive officer. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our humble obeisances of all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and therefore with compassion for fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvisesa Sanyamari Paskati Sutani. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmadhyasya yato vidayad itaratas charte suavigyaswarat
Janmadhyasya yatambayaritarataschate swavigyaswarat
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Bhuyanti Yatsurayaha
Tene Brahmadaya Adikavaye Mojanti Jasuraya
Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha
Tejo Parimridan Jata Vinimayo Jatra Trisagamisya
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi.
Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyang Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of God.
O all-pervading personality of God.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto
I
you.
meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute
and the
truth.
primeval cause of all causes,
And the primeval cause of all causes.
of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe.
Of the creation, sustenance, destruction, the manifested universe.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
He
manifestations.
is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of
the
the
original
mind,
living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
By him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
as one is bewildered by the illusory representation
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation
of water seen on fire or land seen on
of
water.
water seen, the fire, land seen,
Only because of him do the material universes,
only because of him do the material universe
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature,
appear factual although they are unreal.
appear factual, although they
I
are.
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
is eternally existent in the transcendental
which
abode,
is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the
I
material.
meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma Pujita Kaitruvocha
Dharma Pujita Kaitavotra,
Paramo Nirmatsaranam Sitam
Paramo Nivasanam
Vedyam Vatstavam Atravastu
Vidyam Vastavam Astavastu,
Shivadam Tapa Trayon Moon
Shivadam Taputrayam,
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni
Kim Bhakri Ishwaraha
Vapari Ishvaraha,
Sadyo Hridi Abhurudhyate Tra
Sadirudhya Varidhyatitra,
Kriti Bihi Sususubhistakshana.
Prithvi Shishushvistatyana,
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities from material
This
knowledge.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavata Purana proclaims the higher truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those bodies who are fully pure in
The
heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth of their reality is distinguished from illusion for the welfare of
Such
all.
truth uproots the threefold misery.
Such a truth uproots the threefold
This
misery.
beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled with which is just the maturity.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other
As
scripture?
soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentive and submissive hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of
by
knowledge,
this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his
Nigama kalpaturur galitam phalam
Nigamakalpataror Kalikam,
sukamukad amrita dravya samyatam
Sukam Kaharvata Dravasam,
pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam
Ibata Bhagavatam Rasamayam,
muhur aho raska bhuvibhavakaha.
Mura Bho Resagavu Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O excellent Pokemon and Relishma
the mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures.
the mature fruit desired to already glory.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishupare.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful,
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberators.
Singvatam Swakata Krishna
Samantam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Punya Shravana Kirtan,
Vidyantaksto Hi Bhadrani
Vidyantastuhya Bhad,
Vidunati Srihitsatam.
Vidunutu Suri
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures
To hear about Krishna from the very glorious
or to
trees,
hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
One who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna dwelling within everyone's heart,
acts as a best-wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the body who constantly engages in hearing.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta praishva bhadrishu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
nityam bhagavati
bhagavati uttama sloke
bhagavati uttama sloki
dir bhavati naistaki.
bhakti bhagavati naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops dharma transcendental.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavad
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavad
and from the devotees,
from the devotee,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
amalobhadayasche
amalobhadayasya
chita etaranavidam
chetaitaranavitham
stipam sattve prasidati.
stitam saviprasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By developing devotional
one
service,
becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance.
one becomes free from the modes of passion of the ignorant.
And thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
And as material lust and avarice are diminished,
Evam prasanna manasu
evam prasanamanas
bhagavat bhakti yogitaha
bhagavat bhakti yoga
bhagavat tattva vijnanam
bhagavat tattva
mukta
vijnana
sangasya jayate.
mukta sanghasya jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in his position of
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understand the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate hridaya grantis
Hridyate hridaya granthi
chidyante sarva samsaya
Hridyante sarva samshaya
siyante chasya karmani
Hridyante chasakamani
Mr. Evat Manishware.
Dusta evatmani.
Thus, bhakti yoga serves the hard knot of material affection
That's the Bhakti Yoga service the hard of the material
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samadhana,
and enables one to come at once to the stage of Samsham Samagramam,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of God.
Thus, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Thus, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of
Shri Guru Vastika prayers. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it.
the spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish.
So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
So the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishes the blazing fire of
I
material
offer my
existence.
respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
Offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of species qualities,
Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy,
chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy,
singing and playing musical instruments.
singing and playing musical
The
instruments.
spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan moment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu,
Because he is relishing in mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes his bodily hairs stand on end.
He feels quivering in his body.
He feels quivering in
And
his
tears flow from his eyes like waves.
body, and tears flow from his eyes like
I offer my
waves.
respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord to such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna.
The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
clean their temple,
clean their temple,
and perform other similar worship of the Lord.
and perform other similar worship to the Lord.
For my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
Analyze that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and
When the
sucked.
spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasad,
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad,
he is satisfied.
his such.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava,
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Shri Radhika and Madhu,
and their qualities, names, and forms.
and about their qualities, names, and forms.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis,
The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis,
who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs.
who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs
Within the groves of Vrindavana,
within the groves of
I
Vrindavan.
offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord,
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord
because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
This is acknowledged by all revealed scriptures
This is knowledge in all revealed scriptures
and followed by all authorities.
and followed by all authority.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master,
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master,
who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hari Krishna.
who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hari Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the mercy of benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advance.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, verse number 19. Sa esa atmat mavatam adishwaras
Saesha Atma Matavam Adishwaras
Traimayu dharma mayasta pumayaha
Traye Mayo Dharma Mayastapomaya
Gata vilikar ajasankaradibir
Katavyalike Ajashankara Divi
Vitarkya lingo bhagavan prasiddhatam.
Ita Kyalingo Bhagavan Prasidatam.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He is the super soul and the supreme lord of all self-realized souls. He is the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva, and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions. Being so revered with awe and veneration, may that Supreme Absolute be pleased with me. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, although the Lord of all followers of different paths of self-realization, is knowable only by those who are above all pretensions. Everyone is searching for eternal peace or eternal life, and with an aim to this destination, everyone is either studying the Vedic scriptures or other religious scriptures, or undergoing severe austerity as empiric philosophers, as mystics, yogis, or as unalloyed devotees, etc. But the Supreme Lord is perfectly realized only by the devotees because they are above all pretensions. Those who are on the path of self-realization are generally classified as karmis, jnanis, yogis, or devotees of the Lord. The karmis, who are much attracted by the fruit of activities in Vedic rituals, are called bhukti kami, or those who desire material enjoyment. The jnanis, who try to become one with the Supreme by mental speculation, are called mukti kami, or those who desire liberation from material existence. The mystic yogis, who practice different types of austerities for attainment of 8 kinds of material perfection, and who ultimately meet the supersoul Paramatma in trance, are called the Siddhikami, or those who desire the perfection of becoming finer than the finest, becoming heavier than the heaviest, getting everything desired, having control over everyone, creating everything liked, etc. All these are abilities of a powerful yogi, but the devotees of the Lord do not want anything like that for self-satisfaction. They want only to serve the Lord because the Lord is great, and as living entities, they are eternally subordinate parts and parcels of the Lord. The perfect realization of the self by the devotee helps him to become desireless, to desire nothing for his personal self, and thus the devotees are called niskami, without any desire. A living entity, by his constitutional position, cannot be void of all desires. The bhuktikami, muktikami, and siddhikami all desire something for personal satisfaction, but the niskami, devotee of the Lord, desire everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. They are completely dependent on the orders of the Lord and are always ready to discharge their duty for the satisfaction of the Lord. In the beginning, Arjuna placed himself in one of those who desire self-satisfaction, for he desired not to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but to make him desireless. The Lord preached the Bhagavad Gita, in which the ways of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga, and also Bhakti Yoga were explained. Because Arjuna was without any pretension, he changed his decision and satisfied the Lord by agreeing to fight. Karishye vachanam tava. Whatever you say, Krishna, that is what I'm going to do. And thus he became desireless. The examples of Brahma and Lord Shiva are specifically cited here because Brahmaji, Lord Shiva, Srimati Lakshmi, and the 4 Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, etc., are leaders of the 4 desireless Vaishnava Sampradayas. They are all freed from all pretensions. Srila Jiva Goswami interprets the word Gata Vyalikai as Projita Kaitava, or those who are freed from all pretensions, the unalloyed devotees only. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19:149, it is said, Krishna Bhakti Niskama Ateva Santa, Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakali Asanta. Those who are after fruitive results for their pious activities, those who desire salvation and identity with the Supreme, and those who desire material perfections of mystic power are all restless because they want something for themselves. But the devotee is completely peaceful because he has no demand for himself and is always ready to serve the desire of the Lord. The conclusion is, therefore, that the Lord is for everyone because no one can achieve the result of his respective desires without his sanction. But as stated by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 8.9, all such results are awarded by him only. For the Lord is Adishwara, the original controller of everyone, namely the Vedantas, the great Karma Kandiyas, the great religious leaders, the great performers of austerity, and all who are striving for spiritual advancement. But ultimately, he is realized by the pretensionless devotees only. Therefore, special stress is given to the devotional service of the Lord by Srila Sukadev Goswami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. He, the Supreme Soul and Supreme Lord of all self-realized souls. He is the Super Soul and the Supreme Lord of all self-realized souls. He is the personification of the Vedas, religious scriptures, and austerities. He is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Shiva and all those who are transcendental to all pretensions. Being so revered with awe and veneration, may that Supreme Absolute be pleased with me. Well, this is a wonderful purport. As usual, Prabhupada is exemplary in everything he writes, everything he speaks. And this is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 30th verse. Sadibut adidevam mam sadiya yajnam chaye vidu prayana kali pichamam te vidur yukta chetasaha. Those in full consciousness of me, meaning Krishna, who know me, meaning Krishna, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. It's a very nice verse. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, every day they try and learn something new about Krishna. Every day. And when things become even more advanced, every minute. And when things become more advanced, every second, the devotee tries to learn something new about the Lord. Those in full consciousness of me who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of God, even at the time of death. So preparation for death is extremely important. We shouldn't die with our boots on. This is a saying in English. That means that a person does not take any time for self-realization and dies while they're still working in their job or their profession or whatever, or going to the bank and seeing how much money they have. And it's all foolish things. So it says here, persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Well, every Hindu doesn't understand this point. They think there are many gods and they're all equal. This was, and then Gandhi went even further. He said, all religions are equal. So they want to, you see, all the so-called phony liberals, they want to make everything equal. The only thing that's equal is the chance to be Krishna conscious. Everything else is not equal. How can you say Jeff Bezos is equal to everyone else? No. How can you say everyone is equal to Krishna? No. No one is equal in the material world. Everyone has different levels of realization. Are the animals equal to the humans? No. Are the insects equal to the animals? No. Are the reptiles and snakes equal to the animals? No, not usually. Are the fish equal to the plants? Well, the plants are they equal to the reptiles or bugs? So you see, nothing is equal in the material world. However, the one thing that is equal is everybody has a chance to be Krishna conscious. Every human being has a chance. And even in some rare cases, animals. So but everything depends on association with pure devotee or pure devotees of the Lord. That is the beginning of spiritual life. So let's see what Prabhupada says here. He says, gradually by such in the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the time of death, such a Krishna conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord. So you see, everything is focused on having association with genuine devotees. Without that association, one can't really understand Krishna. You can't just get the book and read it and you'll understand everything. It doesn't happen. So Prabhupada says, persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, everything is based on association with devotees, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the time of death, such a Krishna-conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan. The 7th chapter particularly explains how one can become a fully Krishna-conscious person. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is association with persons who are Krishna conscious. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by his grace, meaning Krishna's grace, one can understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we don't associate, or if your kids don't associate with genuine devotees, there's no hope. If they're associating 8, 10 hours, or even more than that through the internet with nonsense people, they're not going to become Krishna conscious. They're not even going to make one step of advancement in Krishna consciousness because of the overriding association with non-devotees. At the same time, one can really understand the constitutional position of living entity and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. So that is very important to understand. You have to understand knowledge, and you have to also understand how ignorance is acting and influencing us. We have to know two things. Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmani Gavi Hastani, Sunichaiva Swapakecha, Pandita Samadarshinani. And also, so that the humble stage sees with equal vision the Brahmana and the dog eater and the dog. So that equal vision means he sees that everyone is actually a servant of Krishna. But most people have forgotten it. So therefore, he feels compelled to help people remember their relationship with Krishna. But then it says that that one must learn, in Ishopanishad says, one must learn vidya and avidya, or avidya, simultaneously together, so that avidya does not become an obstacle on the quest for vidya, or knowledge. So therefore it says here, at the same time one can really understand the constitutional position of the living entity and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. So first we have to understand something about Krishna by association with persons who are Krishna conscious. And by such association, which is spiritual, it puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord, with Krishna. And by Krishna's grace, one can understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the same time, one can really understand the constitutional position of the living entity. That means that we're all the servants of Krishna, and we don't have any personal motive other than to please the Lord. We don't have any self-interest other than to please the Lord. But someone who's a kami yogi or a jnani yogi or a siddhi yogi, they all want something for their self-satisfaction. The devotee does not want anything for his self-satisfaction. He wants only to serve the satisfaction of Krishna. That's the major difference between these others who are engaged in transcendental activities but still are under the influence of some type of contamination. They want self-satisfaction rather than satisfaction of the Lord. Just like it says here, in prayers to the spiritual master, what does it say? It says, so when the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. For my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. So the devotee is satisfied when he sees that the other devotees are engaged in Krishna consciousness, and that they're satisfied by dint of knowledge and realization about Krishna, not by attaining mystical powers, not by merging into the Brahman effulgence, not by being elevated to heavenly planets to dance with the apsaris and engage in tremendous sense gratification. The devotees are satisfied by spreading the glories of Krishna, especially to those that know nothing about Krishna. Okay. And then he also says that the spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. That's what a spiritual master does. He gets everyone engaged in Krishna's service in different ways. Okay, so then it says that by gradual development of Krishna consciousness in good association, not bad association. Bad association are the loose devotees. They're very loose. They sometimes follow and sometimes don't follow. They sometimes come and sometimes don't come for service. They're very, what you would call, not steady. They're restless. Sometimes they're overwhelmed by a desire to make more money. Sometimes they're overwhelmed by a desire for illicit activities. Sometimes they want to engage in Krishna consciousness. So there's sometimes this, sometimes that is a sign of a restless devotee. They're not fully satisfied simply by Krishna consciousness. So in good association, the living entity can understand that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature, completely controlled by the three modes of material nature. And the laws of material nature say that you're going to be born, you grow, you stay for some time, you give off byproducts, children, you begin to dwindle, and then you're going to die. Those are the laws of material nature. You can't escape them. There's no material strategy to escape those implacable stages of life, unchanging stages of life. So the devotee simply engages himself in activities of Krishna consciousness and thereby factually attains his constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord. In such a situation, he takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. This is different than the Mayavadi, who wants silence. He wants to hear something inside of him. He wants to see some light inside of him. All devoid of Krishna and all devoid of Krishna Katha. Because the Katha for the impersonalist is a diversion from the truth. The truth for him is either sunyavad, complete annihilation, or mayavad, worshipping something that's an illusion that does not exist. What is the illusion? That they become God by merging into the Brahman effulgence. It's nonsense. They never become God. So it's all worshipping an illusion. So the devotee takes pleasure in hearing and glorifying the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. He is convinced that by his doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. So this is a sign of faith. You don't have to do anything else. This is the only thing you really have to do. This determined faith is called Drita Vrata, and it is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service. That is the verdict of all scriptures. This 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction. So it says this is the beginning, right? When one is always focused on pleasing Krishna, engaging himself or herself in Krishna conscious activities, and always remaining in a position as the eternal servant of the Lord, being satisfied only by hearing the transcendental activities and qualities of the Lord. That is the beginning, because from that point on, they attain eternal life. So it's a progression to transcendental life, and once you attain that transcendental life, there's no more birth, death, old age, and disease. So that's a very nice verse, 7th chapter, 30th verse, and also the 2nd chapter, 70th verse explains what it means to be desireless. 2nd chapter, 70th verse, aporiyamanam achalam patistam. Let's see what there that is. Samudra apa pravisanti yadvat tadvat kama yam pravisanti sarve sasantim apnati nakama kami. A person who's not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, meaning material desires, that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So, this is something which should be a red flag. Every day we're being bombarded by people and publicity and propaganda to get us hooked on some desire. You can get your master's degree by Arizona State University, all online and very quickly, blah, blah, blah. And you can learn how to flip houses overnight and become a millionaire. And you can learn how to flip cars and become a millionaire. And you can learn how to invest in the commodity market and become a millionaire. So people are proposing all kinds of things. And then there's, social media. You can meet this woman or that man and be happy. And because you're not happy in your marriage, you can meet someone else and be happy. So this is going on all over the world. And people are being duped, fooled, and misled by all this propaganda, advertisement, and exhortation, as they say. They're trying to exhort you to take a bite of the bait. To catch a fish, you put some bait on a hook. But the fish doesn't see the hook, they see the bait, and the bait looks very delicious. So they bite, and then they get caught. But this is what's happening on the internet, especially. But it's happening at all levels, on the radio, on the television, on the internet, social media. There's a lot of bait out there hiding the hook. And as soon as you bite the bait, you get hooked. Just like there are people that men and women get these emails. Someone says, "Oh, I'm so enamored by you. I saw your web page. I saw your file and such web page, and you sound like the perfect person. And please call me and let's get to know each other." You don't know who that is. That could be some man in Nigeria pretending to be a woman, or that could be some woman in Korea pretending to be a man. You don't know. But they're speaking so sweetly and they're trying to hook you. And they're putting forward the bait. So here it says, although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water, but the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. Well, the example would be Haridas Thakur. He was tempted twice, one by a prostitute that was hired to make him fall down, and he made her into a devotee, and a second time by Maya Devi herself, who also surrendered to him and became his devotee and learned how to chant Hare Krishna. Both the prostitute and Maya Devi learned to chant Hare Krishna from Haridas Thakur. Why? Because he was not agitated. He's fully satisfied by Krishna consciousness. Therefore, there's nothing that people can offer him that can deviate him from the path of Krishna consciousness, because nothing is as great, as wonderful, as nectarian as Krishna consciousness. That this is something we have to actually experience and taste. Therefore, when you have this higher taste, param jusva nivartate, you're no longer attracted by the lower taste. Everything's based on taste, on projecting your mind and feeling, oh, it'd be so good if I had this thing, or this person, or whatever. So that is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. That's a fact. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. Yeah, he's fully satisfied by Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. That's a fact. But of course, the devotee diminishes his material or her material necessities to a bare minimum. So it's very easily supplied. Therefore, he or she is like the ocean, always full in himself or herself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he's steady in his activities of Krishna consciousness, and he's not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man or person, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. See? Who can write like this? Only Prabhupada, because he has realization of all this. Someone that doesn't have realization, they'll write something like this, like that, but not complete like this. Although those desires are still present, the devotee is not agitated by them. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires, even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. Never attain peace. The fruitive workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Everyone's repeating that after the puja, but there's no Shanti. There may be some temporary Shanti, but there's no Shanti, because as soon as the puja is over, then they go back and they have to face all the problems again. And problems are coming up all the time. One problem ends, another two problems come. It's happening to everyone. So therefore, if we become satisfied by Krishna consciousness, we're no longer disturbed by these other problems or these other... we're never going to be tricked by Maya again. Okay, so we will stop there. Are there any questions? So it says, the Lord Krishna is realized by pretensionless devotees only. So pretensionless means you have no desire for sense gratification, you have no desire to merge into the Brahman, to become God, you have no desire to attain the mystical perfections of Siddhi Yoga. You only want to be a devotee, fully engaged in the service of the Lord, and always learning new things about the Lord and preaching the glories of the Lord. Therefore, you're not waver. You don't waver. You're not restless. You're satisfied in your position. Hare Krishna. Yes. Haribol.
Not exactly related, but kind of indirect topic. So this 2.4.19 translation talks about that Krishna is worshipped by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. I have a question about 7.14 purport.
7:14. Okay. Yeah.
In the purport, Prabhupada is making a statement about Lord Brahma and Shiva.
Yes.
So, how do you explain?
Okay. Now, first thing to understand, the position of Brahma is a titular position. Meaning, it's like President of the United States. It's not always the same person. Okay? So sometimes Brahma makes mistakes, right? In different yugas. The question of Shiva, he, in a similar way to Krishna, he expands himself in many different expansions. I think there's 9 different expansions. They're called Rudras. So, okay, so what is your question now?
So the question of 7.14 is that even Brahma and Shiva are overcome by Maya.
Slightly. Yes. So you want to know about that?
Yeah, like Shiva is like the topmost Vaishnava.
Yeah, but he tried to grab Mohini Murti. Right? He left his wife standing there and ran after Mohini Murti. Tried to grab her. He was enamored by her beauty. And so sometimes, because Krishna never touches the material nature, but Shiva and Brahma touch it slightly. And therefore it can be contaminated. It's like it's contaminating for us, right? But we get more contaminated. They don't get so contaminated, but they can be slightly contaminated by the material nature because they're always dealing with it, right? So, Bhrigu Muni tested them, and he saw that Brahma and Shiva could become agitated, whereas Vishnu was never agitated. Right? So you have to refer to those pastimes because they're very instructive. Okay. Krishna never touches the material nature. Even when he is present here, he's always transcendental to it. But Lord Shiva has some little contact with it because his wife is Durga, good Durga Mata. And Brahma, because he has such powerful position, as the leader of the whole universe, sometimes he can get affected by passion. And Lord Shiva, sometimes he's affected somewhat by ignorance. That doesn't diminish them. It's like you might make a mistake, but if you continue in devotional service, it's not considered serious. Right? So if they continue in devotional service, then you should not criticize them. Okay?
And then Shiva is more interesting. If you said there are different forms of Shiva.
Yeah.
9 forms. There is Sada Shiva, which can be outside of.
Well, Sada Shiva, Shiva Tattva is complicated because that means that he's in the Vaikuntha planets and he's transcendental. And then there's Shiva in the material world who can become slightly affected by the modes, especially mode of ignorance. So we have to not jump to any conclusions, right? Anyway, one thing is there, and this. Okay, let me show you this verse that explains it. By the way, Shiva and Brahma both are Mahajans, right? That means they're experts in knowledge of Krishna. So when it talks about Mahajans in Bhagavad Gita, it says one should never criticize them. Let me see where that verse is. And they are transcendental. They have tremendous powers. Mahajalan, where is that? Interesting. Anyway, one should not try and imitate them, and one should not criticize them, because they, even if they make a mistake, they will come back, they will continue in devotional service. Okay, here, it's 4th chapter, 19th verse. Let's see what it says. It says, Sarve Samaramba Purvajita. It's the 4th chapter, 16th verse, sorry. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So in the purport, it says, it is said that one cannot ascertain the ways of religion simply by imperfect experimental knowledge. Actually, the principles of religion can only be laid down by the Lord himself. Dharmam to shakshat bhagavat pranitam. No one can manufacture a religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow in the footsteps of great authorities like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Manu, Kumara, Kapila, Prahlada, Bhisma, Sukadev, Goswami, Yamaraj, Janaka, and Bali Maharaj. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of causeless mercy to his devotees, the Lord explains directly to Arjuna what action is and what inaction is. Only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. So if a person, even though they commit some mistakes, if they continue in Krishna consciousness and stay always under the tutelage or instructions of bona fide gurus, like Shiksha and Diksha gurus, then they should not be criticized, even though there may be some fall down, right? But if there's a regular pattern of fall down, then that cannot be excused, right? And then also, it says, one second, let me find one more verse. 9th chapter. Ninth chapter, 30th verse. Apichet sudara charo bhajanti mama nanyabhak sadhu eva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. It says, even if one is fully engaged in devotional service to the Lord and is sometimes found engaged in abominable activities, these activities should be considered to be like the spots that resemble the mark of a rabbit on the moon. Such spots do not become an impediment to the diffusion of moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of saintly character should not make him abominable. On the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs, as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee. So Brahma and Shiva, they usually immediately rectify their mistake. And that means that they're genuine devotees. Right? And if we also are willing to be rectified very quickly, then we are also devotees. But if we use this verse to continually break the rules and regulations, then we're rascal number one. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.